Hello, I'd like to introduce Helen Dawes, who's a Professor of Clinical Rehabilitation at Exeter University. And she's going to talk to us tonight about reviewing the devices available to improve movement for people with Parkinson's with gait problems. So welcome, Helen.
So thank you everybody for attending the meeting. I'm going to split the talk into two halves. And the first half, I'll introduce a little bit of myself and what we're getting up to at Exeter Biomedical Research Centre. And then the second half, I'll give a nice example of some of the technologies, and in particular one that's sort of made it through a bit further in terms of the sort of, I'll call it validation process, but the process of checking that the device is doing what it says on the tin. I can't see anyone and I can't see chat. So if something's coming up, Jane, will you just sort of flag it up to me if you want me to stop? So first of all, so
I'll keep an eye on that for you, Helen. It's all right, no problem.
Yeah, brilliant. So for the first half, so I'm housed in the Biomedical Research Centre at the University of Exeter, and it's a network of centres. So we're, this is a bit of a show-off time. So we've just set this up under the leadership of Professor Sally Lamb here in the Southwest. So it's the first of these sort of national institutes of health research down in this region, and we're a network that work together to create a great environment where experimental medicine can thrive, and that is translational research. So the kind of early stage innovations, but for me, I head up with Sally the rehabilitation theme. So it's rehabilitation and new innovations. So I'm going to talk about technologies, okay? So these are, of course, I work with lots of people, and it's just really a kind of overview of often a lot of the work I'm going to talk about today is obviously not just my own, and I'm funded by the NHR, but also by a number of other funders who funded the research. So it's just to kind of acknowledge that. Okay, so my area of great interest is precision rehabilitation. It's a little bit like precision medicine, and it's an area where we think of an individual and try to understand how their body is working, so their movement, maybe how hard they're working, their heart rate. So we use sometimes sensors, sometimes not, self-report, and we use those help guide us in our rehabilitation prescription. So that can be exercises or walking, moving around, those areas. So that's sort of the remit that I'm working in, and you'll all be aware of lots of different technologies. And obviously we're here on one, which is through Zoom, and some of our interventions get delivered through Zoom. Okay, so this is just to start, and here I want to just acknowledge a great colleague who has done a lot of this work and has been working on some of these areas with me from McGill University, Nancy Mayhoe. And so these are her sobering thoughts that every person at one point in their lifetime will experience or witness in themselves or a loved one a deterioration in the capacity to move, either owing to illness, accident, injury, or aging. And this obviously, as we all know, has a big impact because movement is quite critical to everyday functioning. So thinking about technologies really, and to sort of translate us into the technology area, the World Health Organization 2030 initiative for rehabilitation says rehabilitation is key for health in the 21st century. 1 in 3 people need some kind of support, could benefit from rehabilitation. Need, as I'm sure you know, outpaces supply, and they propose innovations and solutions urgently and particularly a critical need for innovation using technology. And so this is sort of a general push that we can use technology alongside experts and professionals. So this is some of what we're getting up to at Exeter, and we're developing, obviously always working with colleagues from other universities, but different kinds of sensors that we might be making for different devices. Some are simpler than others and some are more complex. And we're taking these systems, but always wearing a hat of what is the unmet need. And so we work really, really closely with people living with conditions or clinicians to actually guide what we get up to, rather than mad scientists saying, oh, I've got this technology, what can I do with it? So we very much are working towards unmet need. So this area, and it's really fast evolved, you know, when I think of technologies a couple of years ago, they were all in clinical environments or laboratory settings. You kind of think the evolution of smartphones, technology, remote technology is following a similar evolution. And this brings with it, you know, some real opportunities, but also some challenges, in that this technology needs to be fit for purpose, and we need governance of this. And so there are governance and rules coming through from, say, the American FDA, NICE in the UK, there's DTEC, which is an NHS system. Every country will have a system that trying to actually get some governance for health technology. And you can see on the word map there, big words that I'm sure, you know, if I was to kind of ask you, and we'll have a break in a minute so we can have a chat about this, but important things, you know, does it perform whatever that technology is? Does it do what you want? Is your data secure? Is it safe? Is it interoperable? I'm sure all of you have got very frustrated by chargers for laptops, whereby every charger has a different, every laptop make has a different charger, that they've changing the rules now. So there's lots of areas that, and I'm sure that you will have share some of these and might have some more. Is it valid? Does it measure what it says it does? Does it reliably do that through the days? So there's lots of really important areas that are now coming under governance. And so this is an area that I'm working with team at Exeter and across the UK, and indeed with McGill as well in Canada, to make sure and help companies do various checks on devices, so that clinical teams and people living with Parkinson's or other conditions know what they're getting, really. So this is the team in the first study that I'm going to just talk about, where we did a consumer review. So for those of you who are not too excited by research, this is a consumer review. So it's a bit like a witch guide to technology. And these are the colleagues who worked on this from the UK and the company that sponsored that. So again, I work with a number of companies, and so I need to declare that. So I shall be popping those out as we go through. So this is published, and if anyone's interested, I can send that the review, the paper to you, or I could do a breakdown of that for you. And I know Jane has that. So the challenge is that there's a lot of these commercially available devices out there, either for assessing gait. So I'm going to focus in on gait here. And the rest of my talk, I'm going to focus in on gait or walking, because I think it's of importance, as said at the beginning. There are devices, and they can fill the gap by, and I'll use the word extending therapy. So that we're nowhere near in a position that they're replacing therapy. It's extending prescription outside a clinical setting. And they vary widely, and I'm sure, you know, all of you will have great tales and experience of different devices. So we set out to have a look at these devices and think of it as a bit of a witch guide. We were looking at the devices and we were looking for certain key features to see how well they improve gait pattern or walking pattern, and then see if there was any science sat behind the claims that the devices were making. And this is a study that we carried out over the last 2 years or year or so, gathering it together. So no doubt it'll be out of date already. I'm sure there's other devices coming through. So we had a method where we literally did a search on all the search engines, so the ones that you'll know, and some a little bit more specific, but Google and PubMed, etc., to find papers. If it happened now, I'd probably be using ChatGPT or the new Bing. So, but this is how we did it then. So it probably took us a little bit longer, and also it meant that you can actually reach into some papers that are not available on through ChatGPT. Yeah, and we use simple approaches. We use simple words suggested by laypersons, if you like. So they weren't science words. We just pulled lots of words. We looked for devices that were endorsed on charity sites, such as Parts UK or any of the other charities. And we used the kind of medical impairment terms, and we also looked at systematic reviews. So we had a real wide search looking for technology that targeted walking. There were 3 of us doing it, and we kind of looked for these, pulled them, identified any devices and pulled them on through. And then having done that, we went to look for the science behind them. So once we'd found all the devices, we went, right, okay, this device, is there any papers on this where they validated things? And then the level of that, we assigned the level of evidence. And this, we use the Oxford Centre for Evidence-Based Medicine. So they have a classification, like a triangle system, where the gold standard, bestest of best, is a big systematic review all about that one device. And then the next level down is something called a randomized controlled trial, and the next level down, all the way down just to an expert opinion. So we had a look and did that. Okay, so the gist of this was we found 17 devices. So this wasn't just for Parkinson's, but we did find most were for Parkinson's. And of those 17 devices, 65 were actually available already. 6 were not. They're in the research process, and I'll talk about some of those in a minute. And of the 11 that were out there, only a third had any evidence on their efficacy. I'll use that, i.e. that they did what they said they would do on the tin. So that's probably reflective of a lot of technology at the moment. And so I think the sorts of things that are important, and this isn't from me, this is from working with people such as yourselves and clinical teams, and then this is work that the FDA or NICE have been doing, and literally every nation and on the globe has pretty well been pushing at this. And these are the key areas. So if you like, this is the witch guide. Usable, acceptable. So can you use it? If you have the device, can you get it to work? Someone should check that out, like they do with any device you have, whether it's a coffee maker or an iPhone app. It needs to be usable, it needs to be acceptable to be using. People should check whether you can adhere to using and comply with it. We all know certain things where it seems a great idea, but actually if you look at how long people use it for, it's not very long at all, a couple of days. And then important things around, is it accurate? Does it, if it's measuring temperature, does it measure it accurately? So if it's measuring gait and it says it's measuring steps or step length, does it? Is it accurate? Is it reliable? So if you do it on one day, do you get the same finding due to the machine another day? Obviously people's health changes, but is the machine accurate? Is that technology? Is it sensitive to change? So, is it going to change? Is it useful and relevant? Yeah, I'm sure, again, we've all seen some really quite bizarre technologies out there for Parkinson's that you think that's not really very useful for me. Does it work? If it says it makes you walk better, does it? Has somebody got evidence of that? And for who? It might have worked for these people. So you can make a judgment call. And then obviously important things, security, privacy, costs, and how it looks, aesthetic. So this here brings us towards the end of this first bit of my talk is, which health tech? I think we need to have a simple traffic light system, because I've just been chatting now about this, and I've been using all these big words. And myself and three other colleagues, 4 colleagues, in fact, did this review. It took us 9 months. It wasn't obviously the only thing we did, but it took us time. But what we really need is something whereby yourselves or clinical teams can have a look at devices and kind of see, has it good enough in each of these areas? Is it red, kind of amber, we don't know, or green? A simple traffic light system. So that's the first part of my talk. Next part, so what I think I'm going to do, Jane, shall I unshare my screen and then
yeah, if you unshare for a second, yeah, that would be good.
And then we could see
and if anybody's got a question, if they'd like to, they could just put their hand up. This should be in the, I think it's in the more button, or you might have it on your screen. If you raise your hand, if you've got a question, I'll come over to you. I'm just going to watch for that on the side. I mean, Helen, my first question is, I know a lot of the clinicians are a bit worried about some of these devices because they, as you say, have no science behind them, and people are spending a lot of money, and I mean a lot of money on some things. And it's very easy for us to read a website and not understand that it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, exactly.
It can sound wonderful. This will save you this. It's been proven with 2 people with Parkinson's, but they don't say 2. Yeah, number of people with Parkinson's, and you don't know what the number is. When you say you're not going to be able to call it a witch guide, are you? You have to think of a name for it, haven't you?
Yeah.
We'll have to have a competition. Anyone's got a good idea for a name for it? Yeah. We'll think of a, but I mean, publishing it would be good. But do you think you've got enough answers yet? I mean, how many people did you talk to, do you think, between you?
In relation to that, I mean, I've talked to quite a few people in terms of thinking about it. I haven't got enough answers yet. I'm not, I'm a mad scientist, mad academic. I need some input from people who would use something like that, what they would need. So we need to, that will be the next steps. I think the need for this is evidence.
Yes.
Evidence. We have that. I think what we haven't got now is what to make it look like, how it could work, what would people like, and how often should we upgrade something, so and that's sort of in my head, and we've had some thoughts about maybe you do a kind of it's not really to make a judgment call, it's just to present that this has been done.
It might be interesting to look at both what people who've used it found out, and also look at what the questions that people who want to find a device are looking for. So how does it stack up against the sort of 10 questions we might have for, will it do this for me, will it do that for me?
Yeah,
that might be helpful as well.
Yeah.
Do you actually need people to start helping you with this soon?
Yeah, we definitely do. And so that I think we do, that will be the next stage, I think, to find out what sort of information and what devices, because we've picked on walking here, but there's lots of other technology out there for voice or hearing. There's lots of other ones, so it would be nice to hear. And there's lots of exercise interventions that are out there and that programs people use. So I think it would be good to just hear where to start, what's a good
thing. Sure.
So what I'm going to do now is just talk through a few ongoing trials at different stages, but really I'm going to focus in on the Canadian one, because they're a little bit further ahead, and that's work that we've been doing. So but there's some ongoing trials here. So we're doing work at the moment with gait cues, so we're going to be trying to recruit to that study, which is a device for looking at your gait and also helping with freezing, that we're going to be evaluating. There's a company called Boost that we've been working with, doing exercise trials, exercise interventions through apps and remote delivery. Evolve Rehab, it's actually more for stroke and upper limb activities, but which is interesting. And then Nottingham Rehabilitation Supplies, where we've been looking at devices to use, so that you might use to walk with as well. So that's a sort of
Helen, just quickly, is Gate Q the one that was on the telly a couple of weeks ago? Or was that Q1? I can't remember.
I think that's Q1. So
see, they've all got names that are so horribly similar. It's actually very confusing which is which.
Yeah, exactly. And Gate Q are a bit earlier, I think, in the development pathway. But we've got or they've got National Institute of Health Research funding to check out accuracy and all of these and effects and potential and usability, acceptability. Are you going
to talk about what it actually does, that one?
I'm not going to talk about Gate Q. I'm going to talk about, but I can at the end. We can come back to the questions because it's a bit earlier in the pathway. So it's not out there yet, and it won't be for a couple of years. So it's the system. But we can have a chat at the end about what. Because
it gets a bit confusing. You know, some of them are on your foot, and some of them are on your heel, and some of them are on your behind your knee, and some of them. Yes. That's why I was just wondering if you knew. I don't know which is which.
I do, and I can. So let me trot through one of the talks, and then we can come back and have a chat. Maybe open up where they all fit. Yeah. Well, as I said, there's 17 out there. You know, there's 11 on the market. So it is really confusing, Okay. So let's move to a little bit of exercise, and I'm going to just lighten up a bit now from talking about regulation and regulatory, and think a little bit about moving medicine for Parkinson's, and thinking about something close to my heart, precision physiotherapy, and thinking move better, move faster, and move a little bit more. Okay, so this is don't shoot me down. This is Parkinson's. I'm sure you know very much about this, and low levels of dopamine that have an impact on people with Parkinson's. So you get the impact of that. I'm not going to go into the neuroscience because it's not really, I think probably it's something that you will know a bit about anyway, but we can always chat about it if you're interested. But the low levels of dopamine in your brain, you also have low levels in your gut, as you know, that you get movement related symptoms and signs, and you also can get non-movement related, and we're going to focus in on movement at the moment, and that that tremors, problems with movement, slowness of movement, and losing of automatic movement. So things like walking, and I'm going to focus in on that, become less automatic. And a lot of you will have used technologies such as, simple cueing or clapping, stepping over something. So this is really, or the physiotherapist encouraging you to move well or in a rhythm. So movements that normally occur without thinking, you get what I would call a heel to toe gait. You get your heel down when you put your foot on the ground, and you push off with your toe, and that's a kind of good, efficient walking pattern. So heel strike and then push off with your toe. You swing your arms, and that helps your balance, and it also helps. There's a little bit of energy recycling by swinging your arms. Turning, obviously, you need to be able to do walking, carrying, and talking at the same time. So holding something and walking, talking, that's quite functional. We often walk around holding things, carrying things, and or thinking, and also adjusting to an environment. So, and that can be the context, it can be, it can be something that might trip you up, it can be traffic or people in a supermarket. So there's a number of different factors in an environment, and they all get affected, as you know, with Parkinson's. And we know about the dopamine and smaller levels of dopamine, particularly from one particular area in the brain. It's important, dopamine, unless you concentrate, and that if you concentrate, you can change how you move to a degree, but without it, it's harder to move. It's also because the body's a little stiffer and a little less if you like, moving in the best way, optimal way for your body, it becomes harder work. And we know it's more expensive energetically, that fast movements are harder. And that means it's less rewarding for you to move. And that has a knock-on effect. And this is some work that has been going on at McGill by colleagues that were on the first slide. So paying attention to movement is something you can do. And I'm sure a number of you will be doing that. And I know if you're seeing physiotherapy, you'll be doing activities where you think about how you're moving, think about your posture. But then if you're doing that, it's a controlled movement. It's not automatic. It's taking some of your attention. And then if you stop thinking about it, so if your body is no longer wanting to be upright, get your heel on the ground, swing your arms, you have to think about it, and it's hard work, and so that's something that you'll probably notice if you're with your medication changes over the day. We do know, and it's important, and this is across the board, that exercise boosts dopamine. Exercise gives you a high as long as it's rewarding, and that's the important bit. So, and we do know, obviously, exercise is good for Parkinson's. There's good evidence that it can help maintain your functioning and mobility for longer. So where we're getting into here is thinking about making that rewarding, so that it's enjoyable. So this is moving towards thinking about if you do an activity. So this is kind of gambling here that we're thinking about. If you do an activity and learn the activity, you get a reward. It feels good. If you get an expected reward, it feels good, but it becomes anticipated over time, and it's a little bit less enjoyable. So this is a bit like if you're taking on a task, maybe learning cards, and if you're just learning snap, it gets very easy very quickly and you get bored with it. It's less rewarding. Whereas if it's a bit harder a task, it does engage you more and it's more rewarding. Here, the last trick is interesting. This is where actually, if you give a negative, a false result, it sharpens you up. And that in its own self can be quite a useful thing to sharpen the nervous system, to actually help you then look for reward again. So this sort of theory we can take forward and put it into exercise prescription with technology. So you're, instead of just doing physiotherapy, because that what I've just described is what an expert physiotherapist will do. They'll use this sort of positive reward. They'll make tasks just right for you, so they're challenging and hard, but not too hard, because if they're too hard, you give up. So you're being pitched into this the whole time. So if you go to, say, an exercise session, big, bold and balance, or any of the other sessions that you might attend, you will hopefully, if it's a good session, be challenged. So it's not too hard, not too easy, the Goldilocks zone of just right. So what we're thinking about in here is, can we do some of this in the wild? So there are some sort of simple activities. We know that walking is the most valued. If we do just physical activity questionnaires for the population, walking comes out number 1, swimming is often number 2. And we know it's now evidence is it's good for your body, your heart, metabolism, but it's also really good for your mind. And it's good for anxiety, stress, fatigue, mood, and also to a degree for your thinking and cognition. It's available to everybody. So that's why walking in its own right, from an exercise side of view, is interesting. So you can go with a very simple steps. You can just do steps, and we all know about that. And if you could chat back to me now, I'd be saying, well, how many steps do all of you do? So maybe if you're feeling brave, pop that in the chat. So we know that sort of you're meant to do the 10,000. That work was done in students, of course. So it's really high, but we do know that we want to try and get people above 3,000 steps and get you up the number of steps ladder. But that in its own right, it's a bit rewarding. You know, I check my Fitbit and see how many I've done, but it's not that exciting in its own right, and it's not that precise for Parkinson's. So we know that steps are just steps, and if you just look at that kind of number, it's just steps. But what we can do is start to think about the steps themselves. So slow steps, less than 60 steps a minute, that's a cadence of that. That's a very slow pace in your home, and that's probably what you would do if you're just kind of moving around your house. If you go a little faster than that, 70 steps in a minute, that's moderate activity. Those muscles are working. You're probably getting some health benefits from that kind of movement. So we know that we can up the ante, up the intensity. We've also, we can encourage you to walk better. And back to this, heel first, push off, swing your arms, move from the hip, and also try to look up to a degree. You obviously need to have a look at the ground, but try and look up. The smile isn't compulsory. So there's something here in how you walk. So this is what a physio would do and encourage you to. But what this company here, Physio Biometrics, have tried to put this as a device that you can wear for 5 minutes a day and practice that kind of quality walking. And hopefully the intention is it'll be rewarding and it'll improve people's walking, etc. So walk longer, if you like. So the idea is if you walk better, you'll walk a bit longer. We can do that by just upping the number of steps you do a day, and we can try and encourage you to go up by, say, 10% to get up towards the 9,000. We can encourage you to walk faster, and you can do that. There are actually metronome apps on your phone, so you can set a metronome cadence, so you can set it at beats per minute. If you're smart, you can also use some musical rhythms, and there's certain rhythms that are out there for certain tunes that they have in discos. There are certain beats, so you can kind of encourage yourself to move to a beat at a faster cadence, or you can do bursts of a bit faster. So obviously all of this needs to be done safely, but you can do that, or you can, as I'm about to just show you, a way of trying to encourage yourself to walk in a better way, or you can put it all together. So really what I've just talked through there is some simple technology to just help you walk alongside, if you like, your physiotherapy or rehab sessions, but in a remote way, and to do it there. So here, this is a simple device that I'm going to talk about, but what I'm going to do now is flip us back to the beginning and think through the pathway to checking if this device does what it says it does. And I'm going to talk you through to where we've got to with that device and where that is. And this is a pathway that we're sort of doing with the others. So typically when a device, somebody has a cunning plan, an idea. And for this one, it was Nancy, who's a physio by background, was thinking, I'm bored of telling people, get your heel down, get your heel down. So this led to the development of a device that might do it when she's not there as a physiotherapist. So this led to a prototype that you can see here, which was literally, it was an inertial measurement unit, which is a device that is basically a gyroscope. So if you can think of those old-fashioned physical gyroscopes, it just tells you orientation on the foot. And you can, so a number of these devices will have either gyroscopes in, or they might have accelerometers. So they're readily available. They're in your phone, and they're how your phone works out which way up it is. and also picks up steps. So they're quite cheap, these devices. They're very, very available, and kind of really robust, I think, in themselves. The sensor that fits into a lot of the devices. So then you think of an experiment, proof of concept, pilot towards the RCT, implement it to market. So I'm going to talk you through this device, the heel to toe, and the first few stages, which is where we are here. We're at this point, or they've got to that point. Okay, so the device itself, you put it on the foot, on the shoe. I'll show you in a minute because I've got a video, and it basically picks up your movement of your foot, and you can kind of get a heel strike, blue, from that, and you can get a swing phase and a heel strike, push off, swing. So you can get some information, and that movement has been validated not by this team, but a few years before, as a general thing. If you put this kind of sensor on the foot, you can pick up these nice movements really accurately. And this is from this group, you can pick up different signals. This is a young a sort of person, 23, and you can see the 400 here is a good point to get. It means you're lifting your foot up pretty well. This is a senior, where you can see it's not bad. It looks quite similar to that. It's a little bit less clearance of the foot. That's a less good walking gait, where they're not clearing the foot. They're not really pushing off very much. This is someone with MS, and you can see they're wobbling a little bit when they walk. And so there's different cycles. And this is the sort of readouts you can get. You can sort of see how those components that I just showed, the heel strike, the foot off, and how much you swing and how much you push. So you can kind of get a traffic light system. You can kind of get a theme tonight. I like traffic lights. And you can map it against a good step, or you can map it against your bad step. So you can do a normal step. And so you can do a little bit of precision. So what I'm going to do here is just show you the video. So remember, again, at this moment, this is looking to evaluate this technology. Okay, so this is just a single person walking with it.
This is a woman with Parkinson's disease.
Can you hear me, or have I unclicked the sound? I might just unshare that.
It's okay. No, it's fine. It's fine.
Is the sound coming through?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. That stayed clicked. Okay, I'll just play it again then.
Walking in her usual manner before training with the heel to toe device. Notice the short steps and no arm swing. Now she's walking with our device. Should hear a beep, long stride, arm swing. This device could be on the foot of every person who needs to walk best.
Okay, so you can hear a little bit of sales at the end there, but hold on, I'm going to go to the next page. So just thinking about that, that's the prototype, and that's the kind of proof of concept that we're now going to have a look at. This is the proof of concept, and this is in people with Parkinson's. And basically it was just an immediate put it on and see what happens. And you can see proof of concept, typically you'll just pick 6 people, and the idea here is just to have a look and see, is it worth doing? And you can see pre and then post, and this was the percentage. So we had a few very simple metrics: percentage of good steps, so i.e. did they get their heel down and push off? What was their cadence? Pre, post, did it change it or not? And usually for statistics, we can use quite simple statistics with this. You use about a 10% change within an individual. So that you can see, did they get the heel down? Did that change? And how regular was the pattern? So from this first study in about 6 people, and that's enough, you get is it worth taking forward to the next stage? So that would be a proof of concept study. And this has been done and published. You can see, if you look at the timeline, it is pre-COVID, post-COVID, 2018, but it takes a little bit of time. And this is the sort of thing that in those 6 individuals that was being seen. Yeah, not in everyone, but that was a pattern. So that proof of concept is encouraging us to go to the next stage, to the pilot. Okay, and I'll just show you the pilot. So in a pilot, we randomized 2-1. So it was just a simple randomization, and one group got this. You can tell it's in Quebec. This is a study in Quebec, Parkinson's, Quebec. And the study one group had a kind of a workbook of exercise program, and the other had this plus. Yeah, so there is randomization, but it's this plus. So it's not a full randomized trial. It's more in the early feasibility stage. And there was evaluation 3 months, 6 months, and individuals just wore the heel to toe for 5 minutes a day. So you can see if we look at data from this, and again, this is now to be published, that with this physiotherapy, this technological physiotherapy, there was improvement in, so green is improved, same deteriorated. And this is the heel to toe, the device plus the exercise, and this is the exercise book. So you can see there's more people seem to be getting a benefit from this, from the measures. Okay, and this is a 6-minute walk, which I'm sure lots of you have done. And again, compared to just the workbook, it looks like people could benefit from that. 66 meters change, 77 meters change, compared to just a workbook. And this is response.
Helen, can I stop you a second?
Yeah.
There's a black bar at the top of your screen, which is covering up the titles. Can you move it away from there? I can't do it.
Is that it?
You need to, yeah, that's it. That's fine. That's better. It's still
Okay.
catching it a bit with the top thing, but not quite as bad.
I can move that.
Okay, thank you.
Is that better?
Yeah. Yes,
Okay.
it is. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. So here is just responders really. So the workbook's blue, heel to toe is the device. So we're evaluating here. 13 out of 14 people seem to improve their meters they walk. So this is if they got an improvement more than 10% in terms of meters. So you can see that this technology, in terms of improving distance, seems to be helping at this 6-meter walk at 3 months intervention. And you can see some people do much better, and they do better with this extra remote, if you like, physiotherapy than they do without, just compared to a booklet. So there's a next step. So we need now to go to a full efficacy study, and that's the team that did that work. So I think hopefully that gives you a feel for the approach that is taken. You can do these studies reasonably quickly, because you don't have to in the early phases do all of do a great big trial. But what you do need to do is check it measures what it says it does, the accuracy of the device, which was done, and then check you've got this great idea. Does it look like it could work? A proof of principle study, n=6, and you can publish that again. So if I'm looking at other devices, I can go and look for that sort of thing. And then we can come to studies where we do a sort of small randomization feasibility work to look for people who look like they're responding to this intervention compared to, say, standard care. And then you would need to go to a full study after that. So that's a sort of projects and technologies that a research team will be doing with devices. But obviously there's other devices that we've got in the pathway, such as the ones that I mentioned at the beginning, including Gait, Evolve Rehab, and Nottingham Rehab Supply. So
I'd like to thank Helen for giving up her time this evening to give us this talk. The Q&A session that followed is on another video, which is going to be on the website soon. Thank you.